Hey, welcome everyone. Oops, got turned over. I'll call this April 8th, 2025 meeting of council to order at 6 p.m. This meeting will be held in a hybrid manner where members of council, staff, and the public can participate electronically. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available on the township website. Notice is hereby provided that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001 and in accordance with the Municipal Freedom of Information and Privacy of Protection Act, that all information attained is considered part of the public record. All rules apply to the meeting as if everyone was attending in person, and if there is a problem with the technology impacting the proceedings of the meeting may be recessed. So at this time, I'd ask everyone to rise that can for the playing of the national anthem. We acknowledge that we are being hosted on the ancestral lands of the Haudenosaunee, Mississauga, and Omama-Winneni people. We acknowledge and welcome the presence of all Indigenous people, including the Métis, Inuit, and other First Nations from across the vast land, who also makes this place home. The lands we are on today are recognized in the Two-Row Wampum, Dish with One Spoon Treaty, Treaty 27, and the Crawford Purchase. Now, just before we proceed on into the agenda, I will just make note, Councillor Budrick will be participating tonight virtually. So yes, you can see him on the screen in the audience as well. Due to ferry scheduling, Councillor Willis temporarily is going to be virtual. So we will have to entertain a motion to waive the procedural bylaw to allow more than one council member to attend virtually at once. Councillor Broderick, so moved. Seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any comments? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Okay, confirmation of agenda. And there is an item to be added to the agenda. Turn to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council, staff are requesting an additional item to the agenda for tonight, and it's related to the County Road 6 water main and sanitary sewer installation project. The report has been provided to council through email as well as in person, and we're just asking council's consideration of this report tonight, and it would be added as item 11.8 on the agenda.
Thank you. And that would just change the recommendation to amended instead of circulated. Is that correct? Thank you. Okay, so without any other items, Deputy Mayor.
Motion to adopt as amended.
So moved, seconded by Councillor Ennis. All in favor? Motion is passed. And I'll just ask the members in virtual, if I happen to miss your hand or something, please speak out. I try to catch both sides in the middle, but I may end up missing something. So are there any declarations of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof for this evening's meeting? Seeing none. We didn't have any closed session, so we're on to presentation. So we have representatives from the Amherst Island Recreation Association to address council regarding the annual report. I believe it's Lynn and Mike. So please just have a seat. You can, clerk is giving a hand there. You just turn the mic on and everyone virtually can hear you as well. It's just the purplish color. When it comes, lights up red here, you know it's on.
Yes. Okay. We're here from Amherst Island to thank you for the grant money that we received from you so that we can work through our mandate. And our mission is of the Amherst Island Recreation Association. We're exclusively volunteer-based, and we're supporting the health and wellness of Amherst Island residents and residents of the Loyalist Township through the provision of recreational program. By creating opportunities for social connection and physical activity, we aim to promote a healthy lifestyle and contribute to the development of a united and thriving community. In addition to recreational program, our organization seeks to support community projects and events on Amherst Island and considers the needs of the community as a whole, as well as special interest groups. So we are 3 executive and 6 volunteer, plus 6 volunteers. Everyone's a volunteer. We have 12, or in 2024, we had 12 programs, either weekly or monthly, 6 community events, 242 private Facebook members, over 1,200 island Facebook members, and this is part of how we get the word out about our programs and our events. Several Facebook chat groups for the different events and, the weekly programs. 82 newsletter subscribers with a lot of engagement there, and 1 engaged community. Our 2024 rec programs were youth volleyball, for which we had 5 to 8. So in the parentheses is the number of participants. We did Zumba, we did 16 plus volleyball, which is our probably most popular program. All ages sports, basketball, 50 plus pickleball, another popular one. Youth soccer, a winter walking club so that people could walk indoors without slipping. Youth art classes, drama workshops, community cards once a month, and yarn and yammer once a month as well. The events that we held were community game night, a fish fry, and bingo. And I checked the numbers on that. We had about 117 people there. Canada Day barbecue, music, and fireworks. It's a high holiday on Amherst Island. The Island Autumn Hoedown, we did an 8-hour dance, which we will never do again. We had 2 bands, and we had separate tickets, or you could come to the whole thing. So 223 people came throughout the day. Jingle and mingle, and we had about 80 participants for that, which was great. And the parade of lights at home, which was something that we started during the pandemic when we couldn't get together, and we had about 27 entries on our map that people could go around and see. So now I'm going to hand it over to Mike.
Yeah, I'd also like to say thank you to Mayor Council for supporting this endeavor. as well as staff, especially too. It needs to be pointed out that everybody on Amherst Island that comes to our events and especially the hoedown was our first licensed event again at the schools for a number of years. And Chelsea, our chair, made a speech and there was a huge round of applause. The community is very much behind getting back and using the community center. And we found the agreement to be working very well. Highlighted here on the financial statement prepared for the annual report is mainly our fundraisers. You know, we were successful in the fish fry and the hoedown, and then we have the Canada Day through the what was the vibrancy fund, but the community grant is sort of an in and out shown there, as well as the Jingle Mingle. We were able to apply for the community grant as well for that one. And then we outside the we were able to get this sports equipment grant, and it shows here we haven't quite filled that grant yet, but that's given us some equipment that we can offer to the community as well. So it's going well. This is our first year, and we're getting our feet under ourselves. There's been some extra costs getting the not-for-profit set up and that sort of thing, but again, we're just here to show our appreciation and answer any questions.
I can make that motion. Councilor Pride.
I would recommend the council receive the presentation from the Amherst Island Recreation Association representatives regarding the annual report.
Move. Seconded by Deputy Mayor. Comments from the member?
Just thanks to the hearty crew on Amherst Island for the report.
Oh, just congratulations for a good first year and appreciation to everyone who works hard. You know, it's an example of good collaboration between the township and the community group doing good work.
Back on. So 15 minutes of the meeting has been set aside for open forum. Any individual may address council regarding an agenda item on the agenda, excluding matters under the statutory public meeting section on the same agenda. Each person has 3 minutes to speak. Everyone's wishing to speak can register in advance with the clerk's division or use the raised hand feature. Today, we do have a number of people registered. So I'll start by going through that list first, and then if there's time, we will go to in the council chambers and then on Zoom for anyone that wishes to address council. And in Zoom, if we're able to make it that far, we just ask you to use the raised hand feature at that time, but I'll announce it then. Just another item, since there's only 15 minutes for this item, if there's similar views that are being presented, if it's already been presented, it's okay to say they already presented my information and allow us to move on. Or if there's someone that's speaking for a group, then that's certainly acceptable as well. It's just a way of making sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. So with that, the first one we have, Jennifer Ferguson. So again, if you just like to come up and you just push the button when it lights up, you're live, and then please present. On the screen, we will have a 3-minute countdown. I just ask that you keep an eye on that. When it gets close, I will remind you so that you have a chance to wrap up.
Good evening, Mayor Hagedorn, Deputy Mayor Townsend, Councillor Broderick, Councillor Ennis, Bedard, and Councillor Willis. I've submitted 2 handouts. One is a copy of the original plan of Harewood, and one is an email I sent in February. So I won't go through the points, but I invite you to read that if you haven't already. And I'm going to just go through 10 reasons why I'm urging the council not to accept option 2 of the staff recommendation. If I have time, I will make additional comments. Number 1, the staff report to council SR 2778 was based on a single resident of 29 impacted. And that's at page 4 of 9. Number 2, while the initiative is couched in terms of emergency services, the actual concern raised was related to service companies and mail couriers. And that's at page 1 of 9. Number 3, the proposed civic address changes do not conform to Schedule A of the 2020 bylaw for assigning and reassigning civic address numbers. And that is, as an example, I live at number 2, and the bylaw in Schedule A states that houses on the south and west side of the road are to be assigned or reassigned even numbers, but the proposed new number for my house is 5. So I believe that's inconsistent with the new bylaw and the 2009 bylaw. So unless I'm mistaken, I believe that the new what's being proposed is inconsistent with the bylaw. Number 4, when Plan 838 was accepted and registered, it was not contemplated that the street names simply be erased and rewritten in the computer age, where it's so easy to redesign things without regard to the history of Harewood, the history of Nicholson Point, and just to sort of harken back to those things. Harewood was registered in 1963. Nicholson Point was a farm that was dates back to the 1800s, and the great-great-great-granddaughter of the original Nicholson still lives on the point, has written a book, talks about how the cottagers started to move there and the cows formed the original paths. And it has history. You can't, and without agreement and without losing a lot of history, simply with a stroke of the pen, change street names and without upsetting a lot of people,
And I,
unless it's absolutely necessary.
and I just want to say the 3 minutes are up
Oh, no.
already.
What?
Yeah. So,
Oh my gosh.
if you can wrap up with your closing comments or something, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, so in closing, there's the financial implications to us, including lawyers' fees. There's other things that are intangibles that aren't being recognized. And I wanted to just close by saying that there are other options that aren't acknowledged that can be explored, and there's no rush, given that it would take time to implement the new system that's being contemplated. And there's nothing to lose by council simply suggesting that a task force or a working group be put together and that there be some more options generated. I had one myself where Nicholson Point Road just starts at 10A and go all the way around. Lots of ideas that aren't even out in the open yet. Thank you very much,
Okay, thank you.
Mayor and Council.
The next name on the list, Glenn Owen.
Comments to make concerning the Edgewood Road address changes. Actually, maybe just one. And that relates to the fact that a lot has been made of the onerous job it will be for residents and maybe even cost to make these changes. And I want to make it clear ahead of time that I, for one, certainly am not adverse to making these changes and to going through this work if it is absolutely necessary to do so to resolve a problem. But my feeling is that there is not a problem, and that to do this work at this point of time would just be not necessary for us to do. Secondly, I would like to say that I believe the recommendation that is before you is to say the least more like taking a sledgehammer to drive a square peg into a round hole to solve a problem that really does not exist. And there's ample evidence that we have not had a problem in Harewood Village in some odd 60 years that have passed. And I've been a resident of Harewood for 40 of those years right now. So I hope that we can discuss this further, that no decision can be taken in this regard tonight, and that you would see fit to give us a chance to solve this problem in a more amenable manner. Thank you very much.
Turn that on. Thank you. The next is Mike Wallow. Oh, you've signed here. Okay, you're the delegation. No, Tim is. He's with the Amherst Island. Sorry. Simply reading and not thinking, right? Graham Stewart.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Graham Stewart. I live at 10 South B Edgewood Road, which is right down at the end where the turnaround is. I've been there for 30 years. In reviewing this with neighbors and others, it's clear that for many people in the neighborhood, the inconvenience of changing their address is not worth not worth the benefits that they see. But I'm one where there is a benefit. 10 South B is quite an unworkable address. Most computer systems won't take South B as an address number. They end up assigning that as an apartment or as a sub place, and it doesn't show up at all on such things as GPS or whatever. We're constantly having parcels delivered to our neighbor. We arranged to have our roof estimates for a roof. The two contractors went over and measured my neighbor's roof before they ever got to my place. But let me just say that in all the discussions that has occurred, I haven't heard anyone say that our system is a good system. I haven't anybody say that it's convenient. The question is whether it's too much trouble to change. And that's fair enough. I think for the majority, that's clear and probably didn't need to do a survey. But I would just like to say that the proposal, the overall proposal, particularly number 2, is, I think, a rational proposal. Number 3 is also rational, and it would suit my needs particularly. But I think when it comes down to it, much of the issue is whether or not this is going to be a planning exercise or an acceptance exercise around the politics of people's preferences. If it's the latter, then that's a political decision, and that's why you're here. I understand that. But if it's a planning decision, I have a hard time accepting the status quo as being sensible for the longer term. None of the addresses really make sense. The direction doesn't really make sense. There's at least questions about 911 and emergency vehicles. I certainly worry about that. If I can't get parcels delivered, I really worry what would happen if I had to call a fire or medical. And I'm prepared to accept that, and I'm prepared to accept any other of the other options we can work out if we can find them. But I just wanted to make the point that that if this is a planning exercise around the sensible way of addressing a neighborhood, then the status quo doesn't work. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Deb Feldman Stewart? It's ready to go.
It's all ready to go. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Just to clarify, I also live at 10 South B. So that was my husband who just spoke, and I do have a couple of points that I just thought I would like to raise because I haven't heard them yet. First of all, I'd like to emphasize that it is an emergency issue. We cannot get any emergency vehicles to our place without people having to stop and ask questions about how to get there. When we give instructions for how to deliver something to our place, we have to tell them to go on GPS, look for our neighbor. We're not at that house. Now use that as your base point for searching out where we might be. The second thing is that my impression is the reason that we're in this problem, we've lived in this, as Graham said, house for 30 years, is that there wasn't advanced planning, thinking towards the future about when the addresses were assigned. And in fact, we've had 5 addresses assigned to us over the time of that 30 years so far. So people worried about changing addresses, we know about it. Then the third thing I would like to say, the final thing, is that I haven't heard much much attention to the consideration of how people expected the addressing to be. So I know, as a psychologist, I know that people have expectations and they look for confirmation of that expectation. So if they're looking for a number and they expect it from all their other driving around other neighborhoods, that odd will be on one side, even will be on another side, or that there will be difference of 4 between adjacent numbers. That's what they're going to look for confirmation of, and they're not going to get that. If they look further, that's fine. But our experience with our 10 South B is that people don't look further. and they'll just ignore it. And then they take the first line at what they see, and that, excuse me, that's what they run with. And so I'd just like to make sure that those things are more explicitly considered as we go through this process. And I agree with other people who have already presented that I don't think we're ready to make a decision yet.
Thank you. Val and Bob Grant.
I thought we were just signing in, but
Oh, okay.
anyway.
If you prefer not, that's fine.
No, that's okay. I just have a couple of questions. Oh, sorry. Of the full number 2, we have other options that are hybrids that seem to make sense. But the first question I've got is, why on earth would we not start with like if you're doing the redesign, if you're pushing this ahead, why on earth would we start at number 3 instead of number 1? And I'm speaking a little biased because I'm at number 1, and there's not a lot between me and Bath Road. So it makes no sense to me. Maybe somebody has a good reason for it. The other concern I've got is when we do this, and I understand the folks down on the south side, the 10 is a mess and should be cleaned up, guaranteed. The other concern I've got is all the various delivery agencies and people that use the various internet mapping systems. So we've got Google Maps, we've got Apple Maps, we've got Waze, we've got, you name it. There's a dozen out there. What happens to 1 Edgewood Road or 5 Edgewood Road when you guys make this change? Like, we can't contact Google Maps and say, oh, hey, by the way, I'm now number 3 instead of number 1. I've submitted changes to Google Maps in the past, and it's taken 3 years to get those changes submitted or get those changes implemented. So it's not going to be a cut and dried solution, aside from all the other stuff that we have to do with our lawyers and our bankers and our investment companies and friends, relatives, and businesses of the name change. It's not going to be a simple cut and dried process. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Okay. Mo Johnson. Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, so that's everyone that signed to speak. Just up to the clerk's department. Do we have time left to go to the virtual?
Council does not have any more time left for open forum, but if you'd like to extend it to hear a couple more members of the public, you're welcome to make a motion to extend the time for open forum.
Okay. Council, how do you wish to proceed? Another 6 minutes. Moved by Councillor Broderick, seconded by Councillor Budrick. Any comments from council? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. So that will give us a couple more. So I'll go to the virtual audience. If there's anyone in the virtual audience that wishes to speak on this item, please use the raise hand feature and we can bring you into the meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I don't see anyone with their hand raised.
Okay, thank you. In that case, I'll just go back to the in chambers. If there's anyone else that does wish to speak, now, if you want to raise your hand, you can come forward and present to council. Seeing none? Yes.
We do have someone with their hand raised on Zoom. We're just going to let that person in.
Okay. Okay. It was Maureen. Good evening, Maureen. You're now addressing council. Can you hear us okay? You're muted, Maureen. If you wish to unmute, you can, we can hear you in chambers.
My apologies, Mayor.
No problem. Thank you.
Um, I-
Could you just provide your name and address, and then you've got 3 minutes to provide information to council.
Colin Ralph Edwards, 274 Nicholson Point Road. My understanding is that some of the motion is to change the name of Nicholson Point Road to Edgewood. I'm not sure how this would benefit the 100 or so residents of Nicholson Point Road. Do honor to the history of the area. If there's a small street that has a problem, why not make another street name and number those people's name road
That has the issue.
that have the issue instead of inconveniencing the majority of the population of Nicholson Point. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I believe that was everyone that wished to speak this evening. So that concludes open forum. So now we have delegation. Tim Arnaud, if you wish to come forward, again, have a seat. Just push the button so that it lights up. And we can just press the purplish colored button.
Sheets, can you pass these out to the counselors for me? Thank you.
And the clock has been set to 10 minutes. So
Can you hear me now?
yes, we can hear you.
Am I loud and clear? First of all, I didn't realize that all 6 of my colleagues were going to precede me, but I'm glad they did, that's for sure. And I thank them very much for their comments. Thank you very much, everybody, for allowing me to address council. I appreciate it. So clearly, based on what my colleagues just said, we all strongly oppose what is known as what you have before you as option 2, presented to you by Loyalist staff. Instead, we're suggesting more time is needed and more consultation is required to address the points we wish to make. Some of them are very complicated, and only time constraints tonight restrict me from giving them the justice that they deserve. We are therefore asking you to direct Loyalist staff to have a meeting with 3 to 5 of our residents, some of whom have already spoken tonight, in hopes that this will lead us to a solution that we can all live with before we ask 24 households in our neighborhood to go to the time and the trouble and the expense of changing their address. A review of the Civic address change checklist, which you've also been provided with, will prove what an overwhelming task this is going to be, especially for our seniors. We have now had 2 surveys and 2 votes by members of our community in a very short time frame, and the results are the same. An overwhelming resistance, upwards of 90%, to the attached recommendation of option 2, and about 75% to an option 4, which has not been presented to you despite being designated by staff after the February 5th consultation meeting. In survey 2, Loyalist staff provided a criteria chart as to why they went ahead and chose to recommend option 2 to you to approve. And I want to go through, in that criteria chart, they labeled 4 criteria as unsatisfactory. And I would like to go through the 4 criteria with you as to why we think we need more time and a better explanation by staff members as to why they're on their list as a major criteria for you to consider. Criteria number 1 is the NG 91111. Now, first you should know that I received an email today from one of my neighbors who said that the NG 91111 protocol system has been postponed for 2 years now and will not be implemented until 2027. However, failing that, I have a colleague who is very familiar with the 911 protocols, and I'd like to just read to you what he has said. The sources of the NG 911 address data can vary widely. However, best practices are that most local jurisdictions can supply the data. This would be Loyalist, and this is a common approach when implementing such a system. In short, Loyalist Township can easily supply the data to confirm the exact numbering of the houses on our street, no matter how they are numbered. He goes on to say that NG 911 systems can handle streets with odd numbering by variables in the database called Peridian address points. This means NG 911 can handle odd numbers, can handle even numbers or both types of numbers on the same side of the street. That's one of their major problems. NG 911 databases are equipped to deal with outliers in addressing because every address must have a unique location assigned to it. That has been done, but it applies to Harewood Park and the surrounding neighbors, 1 or 2 of which have already addressed you. I've also been informed today that, as I mentioned earlier, that the 911 initiative has been postponed now, so the panic is off for this particular criteria to be addressed. But we need further meetings with staff in order to know that whether this has been, whether this issue is very concerning to us and whether it's been over prioritized by staff. Criteria number 2 allows for, allowing for the appropriate numbers of parks and non-residential parcels of land in our community. There are 2 small parks, a small beach area, and a community parcel of land behind one of our residences. That's it. They're not universally used. Loyalist staff appear to be placing the same weight on beach as on the beaches and these properties as they are in asking 24 people to go to the time and trouble to change their addresses. We think this needs to be addressed with staff yet again. Criteria number 3, odd and even on separate sides of the road as desired by emergency services. We acknowledge and strongly endorse the issue of safety in our community. The Feb 5 meeting was hastily called, was not properly advertised, and has turned out to be the only venue where access to officials from the fire and ambulatory services have been made available to answer our questions. We acknowledge that residents did not give the attendance to this meeting that perhaps maybe they could have, but emails would have been a much better way to communicate with them, and they just weren't given any email information. Staff used the word desired when in your presentation, and we want to, we would choose a different word for fire department. Our word would be critical. Why didn't they use the word critical when, but they didn't. So we need to know and have another meeting with them so that we can find out whether this particular criteria is critical or simply desired as they have suggested. Eliminating duplicate roads segments is criteria number 4. And there's 4 criteria on the criteria chart before you. There's 4 of them, and this is the last one that they say is not acceptable to them, and it's eliminating duplicate road segments. Our neighborhood is unique in that it was designed almost 60 years ago. I can think of many communities, even locally, and I've driven on them, where the same street continues after turning right or left, or those that live in semicircle environments. The current bylaws allow for exceptions. Your current bylaws allow for exceptions. So we're asking for an exception for Harewood Park. That seems sensible, and we'd like to explore that with Loyalist staff. To the residents to the east of us being Harewood Park, and to the south of us being Edgewood Road, we totally agree that it's got to change for them. It's been too long, and to have their residences labeled 10A, 10B, 10C, and 13A just does not cut the mustard in this day and age.
There's 30
And-
seconds left, so. Just
Sorry?
There's 30 seconds left. Just letting you
Okay,
know.
I'm almost finished.
Thank you.
Several emails have been sent to staff with proposed solutions that do not entail everyone having to change their addresses as outlined in staff's current option 2 proposal to you. We have not heard back from staff on any of these emails, and so why is everybody in such a rush to get this thing done? This all started just 2 months ago in mid-January, and here we are on April the 8th. Just a little bit more than 2 months. So what I'm asking in summary is that you direct Loyalist staff to meet with a small committee of our group, 3 to 5 people, and we'll go through the whole thing and we'll try and come up with one solution that makes sense that you can pass. But that's it. That's my comments. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you.
I've spent forever on this. And I live at 12 Edgewood, and I want to stay there for a long time. So don't change the address on me,
Thank you.
please.
Council, any questions for the delegate? Seeing none, thank you for
That's it.
bringing the
Thanks, guys.
presentation forward. We appreciate it. Okay, that concludes the delegations. And the first item we have on the agenda
I can move that, Your Worship, if you like.
motion to receive the delegation. My apologies. Yes.
Motion to
Moved-
receive.
Moved by the deputy, seconded by Councillor Ennis. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you for that reminder. Now we'll go to item 11.1, civic address changes, Edgewood Road follow. Welcome. Do you have any additional information to share this evening?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just wanted to answer a couple of things that were brought up, just so that way we can address those. There was a comment regarding updating of Google, Apple Maps, Waze, and things like that. As part of the civic addressing process, that will all get handled through processes that are done through the municipality. So we'll submit information and then that'll get picked up through various addressing services, and those services will get updated in the long run. There was also a question regarding lawyers' fees. It's our understanding that there should be no lawyers' fees involved because the title of the properties uses a different address as well as PIN numbers. So there should be no need to update that information and therefore no cost with lawyers. Sorry, I do also want to publicly apologize. There was a question that was posted on the Loyalist Engage website. I didn't answer it, so I apologize to the resident that put that up there. I do believe they're here this evening. I will attempt to get them a response first thing tomorrow morning. I do want to also point out we are not trying to rush this through. We're just simply trying to follow the process. If residents are feeling rushed, I definitely empathize and apologize for that feeling, but we are just trying to simply follow the process of civic addressing. So just wanted to point that out as well. I would also just like to thank everyone that's here for their participation and feedback with regard to the whole process. It's been appreciated. It's been a bit of a learning exercise for myself as well. So again, thank you for all of your input. I just think it's important to reiterate that the purpose of the original report was firstly to bring the issues of the incorrect addressing to you, the council, as this issue has been in place for many years. We were seeking your direction as to how to approach solving this addressing issue, because we did recognize that there would be concerns of the amount of time and effort on the residents' part to make these addressing changes. I also want to recognize that staff are well aware that the proposed solution is not the desired solution. The solution that was proposed was what staff feel is the correct and appropriate response to fixing the entire addressing in that area due to it being misaddressed previously in the past. With that in mind, I'm happy to take any questions and go from there.
Okay, council, any questions for staff at this time? Councilor Broderick.
Through your worship, you mentioned incorrect addresses. And also, I believe Mr. Edwards is the last presentation. He mentioned the criteria he had mentioned, and I think it was criteria number 1, NG 911, that addresses can be odd or even on the same side of the street. I'm just wondering, what are the incorrect addresses? Are they all incorrect? I'm thinking more of the letters group down at the south end, 10 and 13.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, during the research into the addressing of the area, it became apparent that the civic addressing that is on the properties currently matched that of the original, and hopefully I got the right terminology, the lot plan that was submitted. And that's how we've ended up in a situation where it's all sequential and going through the entire area almost like a circle. Normally in that process, once you've submitted the lot plan, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, what would happen afterwards is proper civic addresses would be assigned that are done properly, where you'd end up with your 2 on one side, 4 on the other side, 6, and you get that addressing that most people are accustomed to and are expecting when they drive through a neighborhood.
I got my names mixed up. It was Tim, right?
And
Okay, sorry, Mr. Edwards.
I do see the hand in the audience, but the time for the public has already passed, and now it's now it's time for staff and council to discuss. Were there any other questions? Councilor Willis, do you have a question? No, go ahead.
The question I have is about timing. So I understand this is important. And I guess I'm asking, is it urgent? Because we did hear information that perhaps the NG 911 is delayed. Do we have time to consider this more?
Yeah, it is correct that the implementation of NG 911 has been pushed till 2027. What you'll find right now is municipalities are working through known issues with addressing in their communities to get those up to speed, ready for that implementation when those areas go live with that. So in answer to your question, yes, we have some time.
Carry on.
And is it correct or incorrect that the system that's being implemented can accommodate unusual addressing?
The system can handle the alpha suffixes that are currently in place. That being said, it is not best practice to have those. The solution that was provided at the time was attempting to resolve several addressing issues that are in that area, as well as concerns. And again, like, I empathize, it does look like a sledgehammer trying to put a round peg through a square hole. Staff were trying to resolve all issues at once and trying to fix everything appropriately. That doesn't mean we're not open to other things.
That's good. Councillor Budrick.
Not a question I think staff could answer, but do we know the last time a house with either Edgewood or the side street beside it, any house was sold? My point I'm coming to on this is I believe that everyone in that neighborhood has been 15, 20, 30-year residents, and it could be kind of difficult for them to get their head around trying to change their information with all the government agencies that they required to do it. I just am wondering if staff has any idea on that.
Do we have any real estate information?
No, I don't believe we do.
Sorry, through your worship, not on the sale of houses, but the last consent was done in 2024 to create new lots.
For a new lot? Okay.
Sorry, did I say 2024? 2014, my apologies.
2014. Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, we have the report with a recommendation. Would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Deputy Mayor?
I move that the report from the Information Technology Division dated April 8th, 2025, Civic addressing changes Edgewood Road follow-up be received. That staff be directed to further consult with the affected residents in an effort to arrive at a solution acceptable to all parties, and that a member of council be appointed to participate in those discussions. And further, that in due course, a recommendation be brought back to a committee of the whole.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Proderick. Any comments from the mover?
Just, of course, thanks to the residents for articulating their concerns this evening. Obviously, as members of council representing the public, we're keen to listen and to understand. My thanks to staff as well for bringing the report. I will say to the residents, I think in the interest of mutual understanding from a council point of view, we, of course, going forward, will be concerned around issues of liability. I mean, it's one of those things where once we know something, we know it. But again, I don't think there's any harm, on the heels of Councillor Willis's question, I don't think there's any harm in seeing if we can't arrive at a solution agreeable to all parties and to do some further consultation with the affected residents.
Thank you. Seconder?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few comments. I go back to the days, to the residents there were the Waddells, the Bunzicks, the Campbells, Van Blyman. You will know a lot of those names. And don't take this the wrong way, but I think most of you have been there a number of years. And I think as a council, we owe a duty to residents who come to us with a fairly comprehensive presentation from everyone. Just a few comments in a sense that what we're looking at here is maybe applying 1970s standards to the 21st century, and that's always at conflict. I personally have made 2 911 calls this year. I have an elderly mother, and The one call was successful because we had an exact address. The second call, I had to tell the 911 how to get to where the situation was going. And as you know, as we move on with stretching healthcare, especially ambulance calls, it's important that we move ahead at some point. I'm not prepared to kick this down the road another 40 years. I thank the deputy for his motion. I think it is time to get together, come up with something. You know, I don't want to, although many of you, both present and those that have sent emails, et cetera, have said nothing's ever happened. But you know there's going to be a first. There always is. And we want to avoid it, prepare for as much as we can that that first doesn't turn into a tragedy. Excuse me, just let me check. I got everything here. And again, you know, I do think we've got to do something. And there's a few things that can be done, but I would support this motion to get a group together from the Harewood Village Park Association. I don't know if it'd be your executive or however you decide that, and meet at an appropriate time.
Thank you. Clerk?
Through you to the deputy mayor, if you could just reread that motion one more time and clarify whether it's council's intent to appoint a council member at this meeting, that would.
So it wasn't my intent to appoint that counselor this evening unless council wants to do that right now. My thoughts were that would probably be on the next agenda. But
Yes.
Sorry, through you, your worship, I also just wanted to clarify that the residents on the south side of the lower section of Edgewood Road are not part of the Harewood Park Resident Association. So in the putting together the resident group, that consideration should also be in play.
Thank you. Now, yes, you were requested to read you wanted the motion presented again?
Yes, and for efficiency, may I advise council to appoint that council member right now so that
Sure.
it doesn't have to come back to council?
Okay. And Councillor Budrick, I see that you want to speak. So once this is presented again, you'll be next, okay? Please.
yep, so I moved that the report from the Information Technology Division dated April 8th, 2025, Civic addressing changes, Edgewood Road follow-up be received. That staff be directed to further consult with the affected residents in an effort to arrive at a solution acceptable to all parties, and that a member of council, insert name, be appointed to participate in those discussions, and further that in due course, a recommendation be brought back to the committee of the whole.
Thank you. And I'll go to Councillor Budrick now.
I just want to commend the deputy on his motion. Agree with Councillor Broderick, and I'm in full support. And whomever council decides to want to be part of this discussion committee, I support it. I think it's a fantastic idea. It was a big idea for me. Unfortunately, my day job drew me away from being present today. But that's why I'm here via a screen. But thank you. Thank you for the deputy mayor and his wisdom.
Thank you. Other members, Councillor Ennis.
Yeah, I think having heard clearly from residents, I think it is worth taking time to consult the community further. But to Councillor Broderick's point, I do think as well that we should have a timeline on this, as there are certain residents who have raised concerns, and there's almost consensus or close to consensus that at least those addresses need to be dealt with in a timely manner. So all for the motion as presented.
Thank you. And before I go back to the mover for final comment, I just want to double check with the clerk. I'm assuming it would be best if we had a subsequent motion appointing a member because we need this to go through first, or would you rather have it all as one motion?
It could be all done in one motion.
One motion? Okay. So before I go back for final comment, I would just ask, is there anyone that wishes to be on this committee? Councillor Willis?
I was going to offer a friendly amendment that Councillor Broderick be on that committee.
You wish to let your name stand? Sure. Any other members wanting to take that to a vote or be acclaimed? Looks like you're acclaimed. Thank you. So there's your insert name. Okay, thank you, Councillor Broderick. Appreciate that. So back to the mover for final comment. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. And thank you. Now, just I'll mention, if you wish to stay for the rest of the meeting, you're more than welcome. Not everyone does. So we just ask that you just exit quietly because we will still carry on with the rest of the agenda. But thank you for attending. Okay. Okay. So the next item up is Sunnyside Park Civic addressing and private lane naming. Opening that. Is there any additional information on this item?
No, your worship.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for clarification? I would entertain a motion then. Councillor Broderick.
I would move that the report from the Information Technology Division dated April 8th, 2025, re Sunnyside Park Civic addressing and private lane naming be received, and that council approve the naming of the private lane as Sunnyside Court and civic addressing of Sunnyside Park as 12 Sunnyside Court.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Willis. Just before we carry on, I noticed we lost Councillor Broderick. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I wanted to know if he was there, that we could see him to be able to take part. We've got our mover and seconder. Mover, any comments? Not. Seconder? Other members of council? Saying none, call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. 2025 tax rate and property tax related bylaws. Welcome. Is there any additional information this evening or just here to answer questions?
Thank you, Worship. No, there is nothing additional. There's actually three bylaws that are on here, though. We now have the final tax rates from the county, so that's why that tax rate bylaw is on there. The senior tax credit, that change was made at budget time, so this is the reason it's coming forward. And the delegation of authority for the treasurer to enter into tax extension agreements is also the third bylaw.
Good, thank you. So with that, council, we have the report with the recommendation before us. Would someone put a motion on the floor? Deputy Mayor.
I move that the report from the Finance Department, April 8th, 2025, re 2025 tax rate and property tax related bylaws be received. And two, that council enact bylaw 2025-28, establishing the 2025 tax rates and due dates for Loyalist Township and providing for the collection of property taxes for 2025. Three, that council enact bylaw 2025-26, seniors property tax credit bylaw, and repeal bylaw 98-87 and bylaw 2011-22. And four, that council enact bylaw 2025-27 allowing for the delegation of authority for the treasurer to enter into tax extension agreements.
So moved, seconded by Counselor Ennis. Comments from the mover, seconder, other members of council? Seeing none. Oh, did you have a question, Counselor Budrick? Okay, that I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. U.S. tariffs, procurement and economic development. Any additional information this evening?
This, thank you, Worship. This item is fluid, so a report was written on April the 1st, and of course, there's been changes since then. But the recommendation hasn't changed, and the report really, going forward, the recommendation is to follow the strategies that are outlined with the with Lennox and Addington County, that we follow their lead and work with them, and also that we continue to investigate the implementation of a Buy Canadian procurement policy. Some of the different policies, they've been changing, and we haven't really found one that we've adopted yet. And if we do find something, then we will take it back to the our solicitor to make sure that it is valid, because there's so many tariffs and different trade agreements that we have to make sure we're compliant. And then the fourth one, or the other item, is the direction for staff to be directed to send a mailer out to Loyalist Township for the commercial and industrial customers, notifying them of the work that's being done by the county. So that's just to inform the public as to what we are doing.
Very good. Thank you. So with that, we have the report and a recommendation. Would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Broderick.
I would move that the report from the Finance Department dated April 8th, 2025, re-US tariffs, procurement and economic development be received, and that Loyalist Township should follow the strategies to mitigate the affected US tariffs that have been adopted by Lennox and Addington County Council, and to work with the county staff and other lower tier municipalities to share information on the above noted strategies. That staff be directed to investigate the implementation of a Buy Canadian procurement policy, including comparing approaches from other municipalities and township solicitor review, and bring back a full report to a future meeting. Staff be directed to send a mailer to all Loyalist Township commercial and industrial customers, notifying them the work that is being done by the County of Lennox and Addington, including promotion of the county's economic development website to support local businesses. Encourage them to sign up to the county business directory, informing them of the other local organizations such as the Loyalist Business Association and the Lennox and Addington Chamber of Commerce.
So moved. Seconded by Deputy Mayor. Mover, any comments? Yep, go ahead.
Thanks to the staff. I know it's very fluid, and I think we just have to get it out there that we're just a small cog, but we need to push Canadian first.
Thank you. Seconder.
I just echo those comments and my thanks to staff. I think one of the things that is important is that the public are aware that we are doing what we can. I think the fluidity of the situation is multiform. It's not simply what's happening south of the border. Obviously, we're in the middle of a federal election. I think what's important to most citizens is that there's a team approach, and obviously, whoever happens to be elected on April 28th will have a particular strategy. I think the strategy that our municipal associations are taking in Ontario is that whatever those strategies happen to be, that municipalities need to be and want to be a part of the team. And I think that's the important message.
Thank you. Other members of council? Just before I go back to the mover, I'd just like to thank staff for bringing this forward. The CAO and I had some discussions, and we thought this would be good for us to take a good review of. That's been done, and I agree with the recommendation. Similar to the county, when the county brought the recommendation forward, there's so many factors. As you said, it's so fluid. I mean, it'll be changed probably by dark tomorrow. So we have to be prepared for anything. So I think this is a good exercise, so we know where we are to know where we could go. And there's still a lot of factors in play as well. There are trade agreements that have never been nullified, They've just been walked on a little bit, for lack of a better term. So back to the mover for final. Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Emma Street lots, blocks 31 and 34. Welcome.
Thank you. Through you, the mayor, staff have no further comment to the report. We're here for questions.
Thank you. With that, council, we do have the recommendation before us. Would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Ennis.
Move that the report from the Development Services Division, April 8th, 2025, re Emma Street lots, parts 1 to 3, 9 and 10 on Plan 29R 11-470, part lot control request be received, and 2, that bylaw 2025-25 being a bylaw to lift part lot control as it applies to Block 34 and Block 31 on Plan 29M 057 be enacted and passed.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Budrick. Mover, any comments? Seconder, any comments? Other members? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. And hydro easement, County Road 6, Loyalist Township Roads Garage. Any additional information on this one?
Through the mayor, no, we do not.
Thank you. Again, we have the recommendation. Would a member like to put the motion on the floor? Councillor Willis.
I move that the report from the Development Services Division dated April 8th, 2025, re-hydro easement 748 County Road 6, Loyalist Township Roads Garage be received. And 2, that bylaw 2025-24 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and chief administrative officer to execute documentation with Ontario Hydro Limited pertaining to an easement between Hydro One Limited and the Corporation of Loyalist Township on property municipally addressed as 748 County Road 6 be enacted and passed.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Ennis. Any comments from the mover? Seconder? Other members? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. 10 Potter Drive Servicing Agreement. Again, any comments?
Through the mayor, no further information.
Thank you. Council, would someone like to make a motion? Council.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move that the report from the Developmental Services Division dated April 8th, 2025, re 10 Potter Drive Servicing Agreement be received, and that council authorize the mayor and the CAO to enter into a servicing agreement with the owner of the land described as Part Lot 31, Concession 4, Ernesttown, as in LA 240335, Part Lot 31, Concession 4, Ernesttown, Part 2, Plan 29R 11232, Loyalist Township, to allow for additional water and sanitary service connections to a proposed future lot.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Budrick. Any comments from the mover? Seconder? Any comments? Other members? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. And our additional item for 11.8, additional budget request 2025-19 County Road 6 Water Main and Sanitary Sewer Installation Project. Welcome. Do you have any additional information this evening?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll give a full verbal presentation since this one was added on the agenda at last minute.
Thank you.
I would like to apologize for that, but we are trying to keep construction moving and make sure we're hitting our schedules. So thus the necessity for adding it to the agenda at the last minute. So this project is the Amherst West Secondary Plan Land Servicing. So the scope of the works is extending the water main primarily at 3 locations, Kildare, Amherst Drive, and Walden Pond, from the existing orientation on the east side of County Road 6 across to the west side of County Road 6. We're also installing a sanitary sewer extension down at the old dance hall properties, what is now the Lakeside Phase 8 subdivision that's under construction. And similarly, that'll be going from the east side to the west side. The intent of the project is working with the county. We identified that they had been planning on doing some surface level reconstruction of County Road 6 from Highway 33 up to the new roundabout. And knowing that these lands for the secondary plan will be serviced in the near future, we identified that it would be preferred to construct these extensions across the road. That would then eliminate the future need for a road cut. It helps extend the life of the county's assets, and obviously it's beneficial from a timing perspective. So that's the main driver for the project, is making sure that those lands are serviceable in the future without causing any additional work for the county and for developers in the future. So this project is funded by impost fees because it is growth related. So this isn't coming out of the user fees for utilities. It's 100% impost fee funded. And then in terms of the actual tendering process, this project was posted for tender following all our normal procurement bylaw requirements. So we have a existing roster that we use of pre-approved contractors that have been screened for work experience, health and safety, and various criteria. So this project was posted to that roster for bids. We received 6 bids following that process, and Mulrooney was identified as the low bid, and then therefore are the preferred proponent. With the procurement bylaw updates last year, it is within staff's delegated authority to sign that agreement awarding the contract to Mulrooney. However, as the project is over budget from what was approved last year, we do need to ask council for the additional funds. And so that's where the additional budget request comes in. The numbers are in the report. So the low tender price was $468,000. So once we add in contingency, staff time, and those various items, we come up with a required project cost of $570,000. Compared to the approved budget of $350,000. That leaves us with a shortfall of $220,000, which is the budget request that we are asking for tonight. That's my summary, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Since this was additional, I'll just ask, are there any questions for clarification before we move to a motion? Councillor Willis.
Through your worship, the miss is 63% of what we budgeted. So is there anything that's driving the difference between what we thought was going to cost 350,000 that's actually costing 570? Did something change?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So nothing changed in the scope of work. We were a little surprised about the cost as well. Obviously, compared to our estimate, it was significantly off, and that's not ideal. We think it's primarily coming down to a few things that we just missed in when we were preparing the estimate. And so it's the nature of the work. So we prepare our cost estimates based on recent tenders that we've completed in past years and apply inflation and stuff like that. But all the recent tenders we've completed in the previous years have been for much larger projects. So you get economies of scale that drives down your unit rates. So that's part of it. The next piece is the nature of the work on County Road 6. So because we're dealing with not just a smaller scope of work than the other projects, but it's almost 4 individual project sites. And so what happens is when we're installing the water mains on a larger project, you can kind of commission larger sections of water main. You do your pressure testing, you do your bacteriological testing all together. But in this, because each section is its own, that means we're actually repeating that process a few times. And so that's not reflected in our previous unit rate costs that we got previously, because there's, again, it's economies of scale in that process as well. And then it's also just our the township's unfamiliarity in recent years of working on county projects for traffic control and things like that. So we're trying to get better at carrying estimates for that as well. But I do agree it was significantly off, and it's something that we're going to work to address.
Any other questions for clarification? Councillor Broderick.
Through your worship, just, so the fee, the 220,000 is coming from impost fees. Is that 2025 fees or projected 2026, as that's when the project's happening, right? Or no, 25?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the project is happening in 2025. We're going to be aiming to get it done by the end of June, so that way we're ahead of the county's projects. The impost fees are collected anytime a building permit is paid, and they're connecting to water and sewer services as well. So the way it works is it's a cash flow, is all the building permits that connect to water or sewer pay into the reserve funds, and then we draw from those reserve funds based on the projects as they occur. Township staff are working on an updated impost fee background study this year, so that'll be coming to council later this year, which will identify this as a project as well as projects going into the future. And then based on that study, that's how those impost rates will be set going into the next 5-year cycle.
Okay. Any other questions for clarification? I just have a couple. Are we stubbing it right to the west property line or just under the road?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So not right to the edge of the property line, but well enough away from the edge of the road so that there wouldn't be any future works required there.
Okay. And I'm assuming with the water mains, you sort of touched on it, I think, but we have to do the full pressuring and chlorinization and everything as if it's a full run of water main, even though it's just the stubs.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, the way the legislation with the MECP works is that anything over a 6-meter extension needs to get the full gamut.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have the recommendation before us. I'd look for a motion. Councillor Broderick.
I would move that the report from the, make sure, sorry, I got it. Should got the right here.
It's the
one? That's why I couldn't find it. Okay, sorry. I would move that the report from the Engineering and Environment Division dated April 22nd, 2025, additional budget request 25-19 County Road 6, water main and sanitary sewer installation project be received, and that council authorize a transfer of funds from the impost fees to CC 250007 in the amount of $220,000 to cover the budget shortfall.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Broderick. Any comments from the mover? Seconder, any comments? Anyone else? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. And thank you. And now I would entertain a motion to go into committee of the whole. Councillor Willis.
I move that council now resolve into committee of the whole.
So moved, seconded by Councillor Guinness. All in favor? Motion is passed. And we'll just take a couple minutes to
items for consideration. 13.3.1 amendments to the township's procedural bylaw. Over to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the committee, I don't have any additional comments. The reason that staff are bringing forward these amendments today is because it's been about a year since the implementation of the new procedure bylaw. And I have noticed there have been a couple instances where council was asked to waive the procedure bylaw to permit members of the council members to participate virtually in closed session and in open session. So I just wanted to make sure that I bring this forward for council's consideration so that you can make this or incorporate that that permission into the procedure bylaw so that you don't have to continue to waive the procedure bylaw for that matter.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Again, the procedural bylaw is ours. It's it's necessarily a work in progress. So I'll turn to the committee for questions or comments on this. Councillor Willis.
As tonight demonstrated, there are often times that two of us need to be virtual, and I commend the clerk for bringing these suggestions forward, and I think it makes perfect sense.
Yep, Councillor Ennis.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, I was supportive of the flexibility around electronic participation. I think that flexibility is reasonable. A question about the definition of reconsideration. So it's reconsideration shall mean to reopen debate on a substantive question or matter that has previously been adopted by council. I'm just wondering about the definition. What does adopted by council mean? So, for example, what is a motion that the committee of the whole passes? Is that not adopted by council or?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Ennis's question. So adopted would mean any action that council would have taken. So endorsed, adopted, approved, deny. Those are all actions that council would have taken. The recommendations from committee of the whole are just recommendations. They're not actions ratified by council. So that's why the motions that the committee would pass today would be put on the council agenda on April 22nd for council to approve it. So the committee makes recommendations, the council passes it. So just to clarify, a reconsideration, if the committee chooses to reconsider an item, it wouldn't be a reconsideration because it hasn't been adopted by council. But if council chooses to change your direction, then it would be a reconsideration. If that makes any sense, if it clarifies things.
If I may, Madam Clerk, I think that a move of reconsideration would never be brought forward basically in committee of the whole. We would, if we'd made a decision at council and wanted to reconsider it and send it back to the committee of the whole, that would be up to ours to do. But that decision wouldn't be made in committee of the whole itself. It would be made in council. Yep, go ahead.
Just to clarify, I think, so if committee of the whole makes a recommendation to council and then it comes before council and council may debate and go a different way than the recommendation, that's not a reconsideration.
That's correct.
Councillor Broderick.
Just a couple of comments. I have no problem with this. I would just ask the consideration when the attendance is placed on the website that when a member is virtual, that instead of saying present, it just says virtual. That's just, I think people in the audience need to know when people are, for various reasons, not physically present. And I guess my other question is, I'm going to give you a hypothetical. Do we have to have a majority physically in the building? Could the mayor sit there and 3 councillors be all over the place to have a meeting?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Podrick's question, the way the procedural bylaw is written, virtual attendance is similar to physical attendance. So yes, to your question, you could have 3 members here and then 4 members virtually. However, that's not what's proposed in the amending bylaw. The way that it's proposed is that 4 members, so the majority of council is physically present, and then 3 members would be permitted to attend virtually. Just in case we do lose internet connection, the meeting could still continue with the quorum present in council chambers.
Any further comments, questions? Councillor Buderick.
I agree with Councillor Willis, and I applaud the clerk's comments. We're all here for a purpose. We're all here to be engaged and to do the best and move the township's business forward. I don't think there's an issue with anyone not caring in this current council, as I've been around a little bit and I understand how things used to be and how things are now.
I'd entertain a motion. Or did you have comment? Mr. Mayor, are you going to make for a motion?
I move that the report from the Clerk's Division dated April 8th, 2025, re-amendments to the Township's procedural bylaw be received, and that council direct staff to bring forward a bylaw to amend the Township's procedural bylaw to the April 22nd, 2025 council meeting for consideration.
So moved, seconded by Councillor Ennis. Any further comment? Mr. Mayor?
I just wanted to thank staff again. It shows it is a living document, and we made some significant changes, and now we're massaging it to make sure that it works at the best way it can. Thank you.
Seconder? Call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. 13.3.2, Affordable Housing and Purpose-Built Rental Housing Community Improvement Plan Incentive Programs. Go ahead, Ms. Campbell, or who's leading?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We do have a brief, well, I hope it's brief presentation regarding the proposed program. So very happy to have some time, if I may. Thank you. Very happy to have some time this evening to present to Committee of the Whole options for an affordable and purpose-built rental community improvement plan. Would like to thank our planning assistant, Carly Visser, who provided vital research, including a review and summary of programs offered in a variety of municipalities, which was used to inform this report. Okay, so the Affordable and Purpose-Built Rental CIP is included in the Township's Housing Accelerator Fund Action Plan as Initiative 6. The recent Housing Assessment Resource Tools, or HART report that was completed by Prince Edward, Lennox and Addington Social Services outlined that Lennox and Addington County has 1,435 households in core housing need, of which an estimated 490 households are within Loyalist Township. The report also notes that 77% of the households in Loyalist and core housing need are 1 or 2 person households. Staff also recognized that other than the building currently under construction at County Road 6 and County Road 23, it has been decades since the township has seen new construction of purpose-built rental housing. And staff understands that this building is either fully or almost fully rented, with occupancy expected later this summer. It's also been decades since new affordable housing was constructed in the township. This paints the picture as to why the township, through its half action plan, is looking to incentivize construction of new affordable or purpose-built rental housing units. These units could be attained in many forms, including new construction of multi-residential buildings, as well as additional residential units in new or existing houses. The program could also include projects undertaken by both private and nonprofit developers. The HAF plan initially considered including $385,000 in funding flow through grants through the CIP, as well as an additional $100,000 to develop and implement the program. The milestones of the HAF contribution agreement for this initiative include implementing the CIP by June 30th of this year and program completion by early 2027, which aligns with the end of the HAF timeframe and the date at which all funding must be spent. Staff is requesting committee direction to undertake public engagement to obtain additional feedback regarding the options that could be included in the CIP program. So community improvement plans are covered under Section 28 of the Planning Act. That's what prescribes the administration of the CIP programs. The township's official plan and the Planning Act identify affordable housing as a criteria for improvement. And Loyalist Township Bylaw 2022-056 designates the entirety of Loyalist Township as a community improvement plan area. Initial discussions that staff in economic growth and community development services, as well as corporate services, strategy and innovation have had with the development community have noted that a program such as this could be successful in incentivizing badly needed affordable or purpose-built rental units. It is anticipated that many of the units incentivized through this program will count towards the township's missing middle housing targets that are included in the Housing Accelerator Fund contribution agreement. And generally, it is recommended that incentives for affordable units receive that there are higher incentives through the program for affordable units as compared to those that are provided for purpose-built rental units that do not meet the definition of affordable. And the affordable housing definition from the county's official plan is up on the screen. The definition of purpose-built rental is also included at the bottom here. Staff wishes to note that the ultimate solution is likely to be a combination of the options that will be presented this evening. As staff undertook the review of the potential options for the CIP, it also became clear that there's an opportunity to include existing homeowners and support the development of purpose-built rentals within existing homes within the township. This was not explicitly included in the township's HAF application, but is a permitted use of the funding if included in the CIP. I also wanted to note that the options we're going to speak about are not listed in any order of preference. So it is possible that multiple options, including the additional residential unit inclusion, may require increased use of HAF funding. The initial funding allocation of $385,000 would fund approximately 26 units at an average incentive of $15,000 per unit. The use of additional HAF funding can be further assessed and recommendations provided by staff when we come back to council for consideration in May. And if the committee has any concerns with this approach, we'd love to hear about that now so that they can be considered as the program is developed. Okay, so the first option is a tax increment equivalent grant, or TIG, which grants back a portion of the property taxes resulting from increased assessment of a property due to improvements. So this is how the township's industrial CIP is set up. The TIG is based on the incremental tax increase, which is based on the MPAC assessed value of the final use of the property, which means that a property with a higher changed in assessed value probably due to higher construction value per unit, would receive a greater grant than a project with a lower construction value per unit. It's estimated that a TIG on, for a unit with a change in assessed value of $200,000 would result in a 2-year grant of $1,725 based on the current new multi-residential tax rate. The second option is a development charge grant where the builder would pay the development charge and all or a portion would be granted back. This grant would not apply for affordable units which are already exempt from paying development charges under the Development Charges Act. And as development charges are calculated based on the use and not the construction value, the grant would be uniform across the board for all apartments, for example, and it is likely an easier grant type to administer. The 2025 development charge for an apartment is $6,701. The third option is an impost fee grant, which is similar to the development charges grant, except that this is for charges related to connections to municipal water and sewage systems. But it is also, the charge is also based on the type of use rather than the construction value. This grant would not apply in rural areas of the township because it is only charged for those connections to the municipal systems. There's no exemption from impost fees for affordable units because the fee is permitted under Section 291 of the Municipal Act rather than the Development Charges Act. And as an example, the 2025 impost fee for water and sewer connections for an apartment is $9,752. The fourth option is a building permit fee grant where all or a portion of the building permit fee associated with new construction or renovation would be granted. So similar to the TIG, this option is tied to the value of construction because the building permit fee is calculated at a certain rate per $1,000 of construction on a declining scale. So this means that units constructed in a smaller building with lower construction costs would pay a higher cost per unit and be granted that back than those constructed in a building with higher construction costs. So if the grant was to be based on a percentage of the building permit fee per unit, then units in buildings with lower construction costs would receive a higher grant than those in buildings with higher construction costs. So as an example, a 50% grant of building permits for a unit with a construction value of $200,000 in a building where the whole building cost $5,000 to build, sorry, $5 million to build, would be estimated at $950. And the fifth and last option that we're looking to consult on is an additional residential unit grant. So this is a grant in a specific amount that would be used to incentivize existing homeowners or builders to create additional residential units that could then be rented out. So this could be a legal basement apartment, an apartment above a garage, a separate garden suite unit constructed on the property, or the like. It is proposed that this grant would not be dependent on construction value and could be, for example, $10,000 or $20,000 per unit, depending on what we learn during further consultation. In terms of next steps, we're looking to undertake consultation and program development from April 11th to May 9th. So this would include consultation with the general public and industry-specific stakeholders, including at the Developers Forum currently planned for May 1st. Consultation would aim to better understand which options would best incentivize this type of development. I just then proposed that the draft CIP would be developed, a statutory public meeting would be held, and the CIP would be presented to council for consideration. Following the appeal period, the CIP could be implemented by late June, meeting the requirements of the HAP funding program. And with that, staff would love to hear any thoughts from the committee or answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. I'll contextualize the conversation or start it off by saying thank you for bringing this forward. This is really exciting. It's frankly a demonstration in my mind uh, of the municipal sector being leaders on key issues like housing and addressing the fact that the market isn't going to deliver everything that we need. So I'm really excited to see this and I want to thank staff for your work on it. So with that, I'll turn to committee for other comments and questions. Councillor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question for clarification. In option 2, when you refer to a development charge of 6,701 apartment, is that for the whole buildings? I know some places it's per unit. Is that for the whole building?
Through the chair, that's the per unit charge for an apartment.
And again, echoing the chair's comments, I'm excited about unit or option 5 is a good one, you know, because I know on my street there is at least 3 people who are renting out basements. And I think of people in my demographics who maybe still want to stay in their home but have other issues, and maybe that's a way they can be supported with whatever needs to be done to have a legal conforming apartment. Just another, in that scenario, would servicing of water be any issue? Because, you know, you have, let's say, a former house is now 2 units. Is it still okay as far as the watering, or is that conversation down the road?
So through the chair, generally, the house construction will have contemplated the size and number of fixtures that would be included, and when the part of the reason we want these done as legal conforming uses, as you noted, so that as the building permits are being issued, the building inspectors can review those sorts of questions and have a look at the number of fixture units that are either being added or modified to ensure that the service size is adequate, and to look at any considerations in that regard that may be needed. During the research that the planning team did, it was identified that there are some communities that offer, you know, in addition to, say, $10,000 for conversion of the interior of the house, there are some municipalities that also offer consideration for external service upgrades that are needed. So if you had to upsize your water service, for example, or your sewer service, those grants in some municipalities are actually more than the grants that they offer for the conversion of the internal spaces.
Councillor Willis.
Thank you. I agree with Councillor Broderick. The additional residential unit, I would love to see that in there, because it just makes sense to help people maximize space they already own. We already serve it with water and sewer. It could make a lot of sense. And I know that the city of Kingston has had a program going for a while, and I'd be interested, you know, when it comes back, to know what the uptake is on that has been, because it is quite expensive to build those units. The TIG to me seems very complicated. So the other ones, I understand what they are, and I think that the users would understand, and it's really simple. The TIG to me seems complicated and seems dependent on MPAC, which always makes me concerned. That's just a comment. The other thing is, if we did do a program like a building permit and an ARU, would people be able to layer on with those programs, or is that what you're thinking, that that's a possibility?
Through the chair, yes, is the simple answer. So that's what we want to look at through the consultation and further review of the opportunities to sort of provide the option to council that can best incentivize this type of development. And that may include layering or options, one or the other, depending on what we find through the additional research and consultation.
I'm mindful that we are in an election and we just finished an election. And I guess one thing I would want to know too, when these come back, is that we're not duplicating something that's being done by another level of government. If there's already relief coming for development charges, that perhaps we look another way. The other thing I would be concerned about, and it's really in the nitty gritty of the policies, but I get concerned about incentivizing the building of affordable housing that may be bought by investors who then resell it, and it suddenly is not affordable housing. So that we'd have some checks and balances in there that protects us against that kind of activity, because we may see that. So that's it for me. Thank you.
I can comment on that, Ms. Campbell?
Yes, thank you. That is certainly something that is built into some of the programs that we research, sort of 25-year guarantees and those sorts of things. So noted, and thank you for that comment.
Other comments, Councillor Innes?
Through the chair, just to echo that, I like the inclusion of the ARU incentive as well, because it allows regular homeowners to participate in this endeavor as well. So just to echo that.
I can't see Councillor Buderick, so I just want to make sure he's good. Okay. In the meantime, I'll keep looking. Oh, there he is. Other comments from council? Mr. Mayor.
Just have a couple questions. I just want to make sure I understand correctly. This won't have any impact on our budget at all because the developers would pay the fees, taxes and everything, and then any of the TEEGs or grants would be coming directly out of the half funding. So there wouldn't be any impact on either side of our budget, the income or the outcome for expenses.
Through the chair, that's correct. The only thing I will add, though, is if additional grant funding, if additional half monies are used to provide grant funding through this program, for example, it may decrease the amount of capital works that we end up funding using half money, which would then be funded through other sources in the budget.
Okay, good point. Thank you. The only other one is the additional residential units. And maybe it's too early for this question, but is that anticipated to be tied to any zoning, or would that be township wide, such as open to rural as well, as long as it met the requirements for, of course, septic and well and the different criteria that way?
So through the chair, yes, they'd still have to meet zoning requirements, but currently right now, like the Planning Act has overrided our zoning bylaws in allowing 3 units as of right in the urban serviced areas. But say, for example, someone wanted to do one of those units as a detached unit or above a garage as a separate unit on the property, it would have to meet zoning requirements still in terms of setbacks and so on, similar as any accessory structure. But you will be seeing a report coming forward in the next couple months in regards to 4 units as of right and putting in some parameters around that as well, which can all include these additional residential units.
Before I go any further, I'm just going to turn to the deputy clerk. Councillor Buderick, I think, is having connection issues. Is he online at all? Can you see him at all?
To the chair, I can see that he is online, so it appears he is a panelist at this time.
Okay. He's having trouble with his video. So I guess, Councillor Buderick, if you can hear me, just shout out. It is committee of the whole, so you know. Okay, further comments? Then I'd look for a motion. Councillor Broderick.
I would move that the report from the Clerk's Division dated April 8th, 2025, affordable and purpose-built rental housing community improvement plan incentive programs be received, and that staff be directed to begin public and stakeholder consultation on the proposed potential incentive programs, and that staff be directed to bring the draft community improvement plan reflecting the needs of the public and stakeholder consultation to a future statutory public meeting.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Counselor Willis. Comment from the mover. Seconder. Anyone else? Call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And 13.3.3, 2025 fees and charges bylaw. And our esteemed treasurer and deputy treasurer are before us. I'll turn it over to the treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the fees and charges bylaw that is being presented tonight, it's a consolidation and it's an update actually from 2022, and then a consolidation of a number of different bylaws that have been updated with the fees and charges over time. And the fees that are being presented are actually for 2025 as well as for 2026. That gives us the ability that, especially for recreation where they're booking facilities well in advance, that they have got the fees that they're going to need for those bookings. All of the departments were consulted in preparing this. So if there are any questions, I will try to answer them, but I do have my esteemed colleagues here with me, which are actually the ones that have gone through the different schedules and updated them. There are also a number of different bylaws that this is the fees and miscellaneous fees and charges bylaw, but there are a number of different bylaws and they're indicated in the report that are also include fees, but they're separate bylaws. They're not included here. There was one that we did find after we wrote the report, and that was the dog licensing bylaw 2012-027. It also should be added to the list. And the plan is, you'll also see that when it comes to portraying this to the public so that they are aware of what the fees are, we're going to have a new website page where all of the fees and bylaws and the links to the various bylaws and fees are going to be available so that the public will have easier access to see what they are, especially since there's so many different bylaws. And the only other item I want to bring to the attention is that there is a new schedule. So we broke out the transportation section and created, public works, utility and solid waste services. We took out the public transportation section and created a new schedule in the bylaw. My plan wasn't to go through all of the different fees and charges because they're quite lengthy. And you will see, especially with the fire department, the emergency services, they have new updated fees just simply because they've got new staff that have reviewed what was there, and they decided that we need some additional fees that needed to be updated. But if there are any specific questions, please do try to answer them.
My thanks to the treasurer. So I'll turn over to the committee again if there are, particular questions on particular fees and fee schedules. Councillor Broderick.
More for just a query about, so where it says current MTO rate per hour per vehicle, et cetera, will that be posted somewhere, or is that sort of vary on case to case type thing?
Sure. Those fees are usually updated and given there's a letter that comes annually, or there's a link that we will be providing so that if anybody is looking for those fees, that they will be able to access those.
Other members of the committee. Mr. Mayor.
The one item was increasing the price for the composters to reflect full cost recovery. And I'm just thinking back to when the fee was originally presented for the composters. It was decided to sell them at a slightly reduced cost to try and encourage people to utilize them in the township. I was just wondering, is that something that we should still be looking at doing, or is that do we think that that's already run its course and we go to the full fee? It's not a lot of money. Yeah, I was just providing more of the history behind it a little bit, just food for thought, that's all.
Through the chair, I believe that is the recommendation that's come from Public Works, is that we now are to the point where we should have full recovery cost.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion. Councillor Willis?
I move that the report from the Finance Division dated April 8th, 2025, re 2025 fees and charges bylaw be received. And two, that council directs staff to bring forward the proposed new fees and charges bylaw to the April 22nd, 2025 council meeting for consideration.
So moved, seconded by Councillor Ennis. Any further comment? Call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. I would look for a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole. Councillor Broderick, seconded by Councillor Ennis. All those in favor? Motion is carried. We are adjourned committee of the whole at 8:07.